Welcome to our deep dive into ancient civilizations.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be using some Japanese history textbooks on world history to guide us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like getting a sneak peek into how another culture views these historical giants.
Like that.
Buckle up, though, because we're covering a ton.
Oh, yeah.
From the dawn of humankind to the fall of the Roman Empire.
The whole shebang.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
we're not just talking about names and dates, though. This is the rise and fall of empires.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about the invention of writing, the birth of democracy.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to unpack.
But I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how these ancient societies really laid the foundation for the world we live in today.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with the very beginning.
Okay.
How did we even get from hunter-gatherers to building pyramids and empires?
Right.
I mean, that seems like a huge leap.
It is a huge leap. And it all starts with the Neolithic Revolution.
Okay.
Around 9,000 years ago.
So this is way back.
Way, way back.
Yeah.
Humans in West Asia began to cultivate crops.
Okay.
And domesticate animals.
So they're settling down?
They are starting to settle down.
Yeah.
This shift to agriculture meant people could settle in one place, leading to the development of villages, and eventually...
The big ones.
The first cities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically farming wasn't just about food.
No.
It was about kickstarting civilization itself.
It was the foundation.
But wasn't that kind of a risky move?
Well...
I mean, what if the crops failed?
Right.
What if, like, wild animals attacked their settlements?
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of risk there.
There were definitely challenges. But the benefits outweighed the risks.
Okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
A stable food supply.
Right.
The ability to store surpluses.
Oh, that's good.
And more time
Yeah.
to develop specialized skills and technologies.
Right.
It wasn't an overnight success.
Of course not.
But it fundamentally changed
Yeah.
the course of human history. And we can see evidence of this at sites like Jarmo and Jericho in West Asia,
Okay.
where archaeologists have uncovered the remains of these early agricultural communities.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to think that something as simple as planting seeds could have such a profound impact.
It is.
Our sources actually outline 4 key elements of civilization.
Okay.
Cities.
Okay.
Social hierarchies. Metal tools and writing.
Right.
It seems like agriculture was a key factor in all of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take cities, for example.
Okay.
Without the surplus food provided by agriculture,
Right.
it would have been impossible to sustain large, dense populations.
Yeah.
Social hierarchies emerged as some individuals gained more wealth and power,
Okay.
often based on their control of resources like land or trade.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and with more time and resources available, people were able to experiment with new technologies like metalworking, which further increased their ability to produce food and other goods.
So it's all connected.
It's all interconnected, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
But why did this all start in West Asia? Was there something special about that region?
Well, the textbooks point to Mesopotamia,
Okay.
the land between the rivers,
Okay.
the Tigris and Euphrates. These rivers flooded annually,
Okay.
depositing fertile silt that was perfect for agriculture.
I see.
This region, often called the Fertile Crescent,
Yeah.
became a cradle of civilization.
The Fertile Crescent.
You got it.
Yeah, I remember seeing those maps in school.
Yep.
But floods can be pretty unpredictable and destructive.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
for sure.
How do they manage that?
That's where human ingenuity comes in.
Okay.
The Mesopotamians developed incredibly sophisticated irrigation systems.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They built canals and levees to control the flow of water.
Okay. Channeling it to their fields and protecting their cities from floods.
So they kind of tamed the rivers.
They did. They tamed the rivers and turned them into their allies.
That's impressive.
It is impressive.
And speaking of impressive,
Okay.
those ziggurats I've seen pictures of.
Oh, yeah.
Those massive temple towers reaching for the sky. I mean, what was going on there?
Picture this.
Okay.
You're walking through a bustling Mesopotamian city.
Okay.
Suddenly looming above the houses and shops is this massive stepped pyramid reaching towards the heavens.
Okay.
That's a ziggurat.
A ziggurat.
Yeah.
Oh.
These structures were not just temples.
Okay.
They were symbols of the power of the priests and the complex religious beliefs that governed these early civilizations.
So it's like a show of power.
Yeah, it reflects a highly organized society
Okay.
with skilled labor, complex rituals, and a belief system that permeated every aspect of life.
Wow. It's amazing how much we can learn about a civilization just by looking at its architecture.
Isn't it? Yeah. But it wasn't all about religion, right?
Right.
Didn't they also develop some pretty advanced legal systems?
They did.
Yeah.
One of the most famous examples is Hammurabi's Code,
Oh, yeah.
a set of laws and punishments inscribed on a massive stone pillar.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it pretty brutal, though?
It was.
With that eye for an eye principle?
Yes, it was based on the idea of retributive justice,
Mhm.
where the punishment should fit the crime.
Right.
While it might seem harsh to us today,
Yeah.
Hammurabi's Code reflects a significant step in human history.
Okay.
For the first time,
Yeah.
laws were codified and made applicable to everyone.
So it applied to all the citizens.
It did, yeah, and showcase a developing social hierarchy.
Okay.
It also highlights the challenge of balancing individual rights
Right.
with the need for order and stability in a complex society.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about it. Could this code, with its emphasis on clear punishments, have also served as a deterrent, encouraging people to follow the rules?
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the different ways societies throughout history have tried to create order and justice.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's not forget about literature.
Oh,
Didn't the Babylonians who were in Mesopotamia also give us one of the oldest surviving works of literature?
you're thinking of the Epic of Gilgamesh?
That's it.
A story about a king's search for immortality.
Oh, wow.
It's full of adventure loss and profound reflections on the human condition.
Really?
It's a reminder that even these ancient civilizations grappled with the same big questions we still ask today.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life? What happens after we die?
That's incredible. I mean, this is giving me a whole new appreciation for how complex and sophisticated these early Mesopotamian societies were.
Yeah, they were.
It's not just about mud huts and primitive tools,
Oh.
It's about innovation, creativity, and a thirst for knowledge that laid the groundwork for everything that came after.
And speaking of what came after,
Okay.
our journey continues to the banks of another mighty river, the Nile, where another great civilization blossomed.
Okay. Ready to explore the world of ancient Egypt.
Oh, absolutely. I am ready to delve into the mysteries of pyramids, pharaohs, and hieroglyphics.
Let's go.
Let's go. From the land of ziggurats and epic tales, we now travel to the banks of the Nile, to the land of pharaohs and pyramids. Ancient Egypt. It's a civilization that has captured the imagination for centuries. What is it about ancient Egypt that continues to fascinate us, do you think?
It's a civilization of grandeur and mystery, the scale of their monuments, the complexity of their beliefs, the sheer longevity of their culture. It all speaks to a level of human achievement that's both awe-inspiring and a bit intimidating, wouldn't you say? Our textbooks emphasize the vital role of the Nile River. As Herodotus famously said, Egypt is the gift of the Nile.
Right, the Nile. Just like the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Nile's annual floods were incredibly predictable and vital for agriculture. But unlike Mesopotamia, Egypt achieved unification much earlier. How did that happen? Well, before unification, Egypt was divided into nomes, administrative regions, each with its own local government and deities. Think of them as the building blocks that were eventually assembled into a unified kingdom. And the key to that unification was a strong central authority in the form of pharaohs who were considered living gods.
Pharaohs as living gods. Talk about a power move. I can see how that would have helped unify a vast territory. And that power is definitely reflected in the grandeur of the Old Kingdom period and those iconic pyramids. I mean, those structures are mind-boggling. What drove them to create something on such a massive scale?
The pyramids weren't just giant tombs. They were expressions of royal power, religious belief, and incredible architectural and engineering skill. Imagine the resources, the manpower, the sheer organization required to build something like the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's a testament to their sophisticated understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and construction techniques. And if you do a quick image search on your phone, you'll be even more blown away by their size and grandeur.
It makes you wonder about the lives of the people who actually built these pyramids. Were they slaves toiling under a harsh sun? Or were they skilled artisans who took pride in their work?
That's a question historians still debate. There's evidence to suggest both scenarios. Some might have been forced labor, while others may have seen it as a religious duty or a way to earn a living. It's a reminder that history is often more nuanced and complex than we might initially think.
So it wasn't all sunshine and pyramids in ancient Egypt. There were darker chapters too, right? I remember learning about the Hyksos invasion.
That's right. During the Middle Kingdom period, the Hyksos, a foreign group, invaded and conquered parts of Egypt. They introduced new technologies like the chariot, which the Egyptians later adopted and used to their advantage. It's a reminder that even in defeat, there can be innovation and adaptation.
It's interesting how these periods of upheaval and change often lead to new ideas and technologies. It's like they were forced to innovate in order to survive. What happened after the Hyksos? Did Egypt bounce back?
They did. The Egyptians eventually drove out the Hyksos and ushered in the powerful New Kingdom period. This era saw pharaohs like Thutmose III, a military genius who expanded Egypt's empire into Syria. And then there's Akhenaten, a fascinating figure who attempted a religious revolution by promoting the worship of the sun god Abat-Enem.
A religious revolution. That sounds almost like monotheism within a polytheistic society. Was that a successful move?
It was a radical shift that ultimately didn't last long, but it's a testament to how even seemingly unshakable religious beliefs can be challenged and reinterpreted. This period also produced a unique artistic style known as Amarna art, which was more naturalistic and less rigid than traditional Egyptian art.
It's incredible how much change and evolution we see in ancient Egypt. It wasn't a static civilization, that's for sure. And speaking of change, I have to ask about King Tut. The discovery of his tomb in the 20th century was a huge deal, right? Why did that capture the world's imagination?
The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, largely intact, gave us an unparalleled glimpse into ancient Egyptian burial practices and beliefs about the afterlife. The treasures, the golden mask, the intricate details, it sparked a renewed fascination with this ancient civilization and provided incredible insights into their beliefs and rituals.
It's like skipping back in time and witnessing a culture frozen in amber. But while the Egyptians were building pyramids and shaping their unique civilization, what was happening elsewhere in the Near East? Were there other empires rising and falling?
Our textbooks take us on a wider tour of the Near East where the map of power was constantly shifting. Remember the Hittites, the first to use iron weapons in the region? They were a formidable force, even clashing with the Egyptians for control of territories like Syria.
Oh, right. The Hittites, I'd love to know more about them. Weren't they a significant power player in the region for a while?
Their mastery of ironworking gave them a military edge, and they built a powerful empire that rivaled Egypt for centuries. They even developed a sophisticated legal system that influenced later civilizations. But like all empires, their dominance eventually faded.
Empires rise and fall. That's the constant theme throughout history, isn't it? What happened after the Hittites? Did someone else step into the power vacuum?
Well, the Hittite decline coincided with a period of widespread upheaval in the Near East, sometimes called the Late Bronze Age collapse. A number of factors contributed to this, including climate change invasions by mysterious sea peoples and internal rebellions. It was a time of chaos and transition. But out of this chaos emerged a new power, the Assyrians.
The Assyrians, I've heard of them, but mostly because of their reputation for brutality. Weren't they known for being pretty ruthless conquerors?
They were indeed a militaristic people, known for their military prowess and unfortunately for their cruelty towards conquered peoples. But their effectiveness on the battlefield can't be denied. They were masters of siege warfare, used iron weapons effectively, and even employed psychological warfare to break the will of their enemies.
It's amazing how these ancient civilizations constantly pushed the boundaries of warfare, developing new strategies and technologies to gain an advantage. But brutality aside, didn't the Assyrians also have a grand capital city, Nineveh?
Yes, Nineveh was a testament to Assyrian power and administrative skill. It boasted palaces, temples, and a royal library containing thousands of clay tablets. Imagine that a library with thousands of clay tablets. It's a reminder that even in the ancient world, information and knowledge were highly valued. Unfortunately, much of Nineveh was destroyed during later conflicts, but archaeological excavations continue to uncover amazing artifacts that shed light on this once powerful empire.
It's like piecing together a puzzle, trying to reconstruct these lost civilizations from the fragments they left behind. It's a shame that so much of their history has been lost to time and conflict. But even the mighty Assyrian Empire eventually fell, right? What happened?
Their empire stretched too thin, and they faced rebellions from within and attacks from without. Ultimately, a coalition of Babylonians and Medes overthrew the Assyrian Empire, leading to its collapse.
It seems like a recurring pattern. A powerful empire rises, expands its territory, but eventually overreaches and collapses under its own weight. So who took over after the Assyrians fell?
Enter the Neo-Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar II. You might recognize him from the biblical account of the Babylonian captivity, where he conquered Jerusalem and exiled the Jewish people. He's also known for constructing the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
Ah, yes, the Hanging Gardens. I've always been fascinated by those. Do we know if they were real or just a legend?
Their exact location and structure are still a matter of debate among historians and archaeologists. Some believe they were an elaborate system of terraced gardens irrigated by a complex system of pumps and aqueducts. Others argue that they were more symbolic, representing the wealth and power of the Babylonian Empire.
Either way, they've captured the imagination for centuries. It's like a lost paradise, a symbol of human ingenuity and the desire to create beauty even in the midst of a harsh desert landscape. But the Neo-Babylonian Empire didn't last forever, did it?
No empire does. The Persians under Cyrus the Great eventually conquered Babylon. Cyrus is remembered for his policy of tolerance towards conquered peoples, allowing them to retain their customs and religions. He even allowed the Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem. He's often seen as a benevolent and wise ruler.
Tolerance in the ancient world. That's a pretty progressive concept. I'm sensing a theme here. These empires, while often brutal in their conquests, also made significant contributions to law, governance, and culture. They laid the foundation for many aspects of our modern world.
That's a great observation. And speaking of foundations, our journey now takes us westward to the shores of the Aegean and the rise of another civilization that has profoundly shaped our world, ancient Greece.
Ancient Greece. Bring on the philosophers, the democracy, the Olympics. I'm eager to explore the birthplace of so many ideas and ideals that continue to resonate today. From mighty empires and grand monuments, we now shift our focus to the world of ideas. Ancient Greece, a land of rugged mountains and sparkling seas, gave birth to concepts and innovations that continue to shape our world today. What is it about ancient Greece that makes it such a pivotal point in human history, do you think?
It's a civilization that dared to question, to explore, to push the boundaries of human knowledge and creativity. They give us democracy, philosophy, theater, and so much more. It's a reminder that innovation often flourishes in societies that value freedom of thought and expression.
Right. It wasn't just about conquering territories. It was about conquering the mind, exploring the universe, and understanding the human condition. I've always found Greek mythology captivating with those stories of gods and goddesses, heroes and monsters. It's like stepping into a world of epic adventures and moral dilemmas. What role did mythology play in ancient Greek society?
Those myths weren't just entertaining stories, they were a reflection of their worldview, their values, and their understanding of human nature. Think of them as cultural DNA shaping their art, literature, and even their philosophical inquiries.
It's like mythology provided a framework for understanding the world around them, a way of explaining the unexplainable. And speaking of stories, what about literature? The Greeks gave us some pretty epic poems and plays, right?
Homer's Iliad and Odyssey are cornerstones of Western literature. The Iliad plunges us into the Trojan War, a clash of civilizations fueled by love betrayal and the relentless pursuit of glory. And the Odyssey follows Odysseus' perilous journey home after the war, a tale of resilience, cunning, and the enduring power of the human spirit. These works explore universal themes that continue to resonate with readers today.
It's incredible how stories from thousands of years ago can still feel so relevant and emotionally powerful. It speaks to the enduring power of storytelling and the human desire to connect with the past. But literature is just one aspect of their cultural legacy. We can't talk about ancient Greece without delving into philosophy, right? Those big names like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they're like intellectual rock stars.
They were revolutionaries who changed the way we think about the world and ourselves. Our sources begin with the pre-Socratic philosophers, thinkers like Thales and Pythagoras, who tried to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos. Thales, for example, believed that water was the fundamental element from which everything else originated.
Water. Interesting choice. What about Pythagoras? Wasn't he the math whiz with the triangle theorem?
Yes, Pythagoras is famous for his contributions to mathematics, but he was also a philosopher who believed that numbers held the key to understanding the universe. He saw a harmonious order underlying the apparent chaos of the world, a concept that continues to intrigue mathematicians and physicists today.
So from water to numbers, it seems like they were trying to find that one unifying principle that could explain everything. It's that same drive for knowledge and understanding that drives scientific inquiry today. What happened next to this philosophical journey?
Enter Socrates, a figure who shifted the focus from the natural world to human ethics and morality. He challenged traditional beliefs, encouraging critical thinking and self-reflection. Imagine him in the marketplace engaging in lively debates, using his sharp wit and relentless questioning to expose flawed arguments and challenge assumptions.
Socrates. The gadfly of Athens, always pushing people to think deeper, to question the status quo. Didn't his unconventional views get him into trouble?
They did. His relentless questioning of authority and his emphasis on reason over tradition made him enemies. He was eventually accused of corrupting the youth and sentenced to death.
What a tragic end for such a brilliant mind. But his ideas lived on, right? Didn't his student Plato carry the torch?
Plato, deeply influenced by Socrates, founded the Academy in Athens, a center of learning that would become a model for universities for centuries to come. He wrote extensively exploring profound questions about justice, truth, and the nature of reality.
Okay, so Plato, what were his big ideas? I vaguely remember something about a world of perfect forms.
That's his theory of forms, a concept that has intrigued philosophers for centuries. Plato believed that the physical world we perceive is merely a shadow of a higher realm of perfect, unchanging forms. Imagine, for example, the concept of beauty. We see beautiful things in the world, but they are all imperfect reflections of the true form of beauty which exists in this higher realm.
That's a pretty mind-blowing concept. So everything we see and experience is just a pale imitation of some perfect ideal. It's like trying to grasp something that's just beyond our reach. What about Aristotle? How did he fit into this philosophical lineage?
Aristotle, Plato's student, was a polymath, a master of many disciplines, from logic and ethics to politics and natural science. He emphasized empirical observation and logical reasoning. While Plato looked to the realm of perfect forms, Aristotle was more grounded in the real world, observing and categorizing everything around him.
So while Plato was looking up to the heavens, Aristotle was looking around at the world, trying to make sense of it through observation and analysis. That's pretty groundbreaking for the time. It's like he was laying the groundwork for the scientific method.
He was indeed a pioneer who helped to shape the way we approach knowledge and understanding. But while Athens was at the forefront of philosophical inquiry, another Greek city-state was forging a very different path.
Sparta. Sparta. The warrior society known for their discipline, their military prowess, and their rather harsh training regimen. What was their story while Athens was busy debating philosophy and democracy?
Sparta was a militaristic society where citizens were trained from childhood to be warriors. They valued strength, discipline, and obedience above all else. Their social structure was rigid, and their lives were strictly regulated. It was a society built for war, and their military prowess was legendary.
It's fascinating how two city-states from the same civilization can be so different. Athens, the intellectual and democratic powerhouse, and Sparta, the disciplined warrior society. It's like they represent two sides of the Greek character, the mind and the body, the philosopher and the warrior.
It highlights the diversity and complexity of ancient Greece. They were a collection of independent city-states, each with its own unique character and political system. But despite their differences, they were united by a common language culture and a sense of themselves as Hellenes, distinct from the barbarians outside their world. And when an external threat emerged, they were capable of putting aside their differences to defend their shared heritage.
You're talking about the Persian Wars, right? Those epic battles between the Greeks and the mighty Persian Empire. That's where those legendary stories of 300 Spartans at Thermopylae and the Marathon Runner come from.
Those stories, while embellished over time, are rooted in historical events that shaped the course of Greek history. The Persian Wars were a clash of civilizations, a conflict that forced the Greeks to unite against a common enemy.
It's incredible to think that these small, independent city-states were able to withstand the might of the Persian Empire. What were the key factors that led to their victory?
It was a combination of factors: the Greeks' superior naval skills, their strategic use of terrain, and their willingness to fight for their freedom. The Battle of Marathon, where a small Athenian force routed a much larger Persian army, became a symbol of Greek resilience. And the Battle of Salamis, where the Athenian navy decimated the Persian fleet, was a turning point in the war.
These victories must have had a profound impact on the Greek psyche, shaping their sense of identity and their place in the world.
They did. The victory in the Persian Wars ushered in a golden age for Athens, a period of cultural flourishing and democratic advancement under the leadership of Pericles. But it also planted the seeds of future conflict, as Athens, emboldened by its naval power, began to assert its dominance over other Greek city-states, leading to resentment and eventually the Peloponnesian War.
Yes, the Peloponnesian War. The classic Greek tragedy, a war between brothers, a conflict that would ultimately weaken the Greek world and pave the way for the rise of a new power.
That's right. Macedon, a kingdom to the north, took advantage of the weakened Greek city-states and eventually conquered them. And it was from Macedon that a young king would emerge who would change the course of history: Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great, the legendary conqueror who in just a few short years created an empire that stretched from Greece to India. What was it about Alexander that made him such a successful conqueror?
He was a brilliant military strategist, a charismatic leader, and a visionary who saw himself as spreading Greek culture and civilization throughout the world. His conquests marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period, an era that saw the fusion of Greek and Eastern cultures.
So even in conquest, there was cultural exchange and transformation. The Greeks weren't just imposing their culture, they were also absorbing and adapting elements from other cultures.
Exactly. The Hellenistic period was a time of great intellectual and cultural ferment. New cities were founded like Alexandria in Egypt, which became a center of learning and commerce. The famous Library of Alexandria, with its vast collection of scrolls, was a symbol of this Hellenistic thirst for knowledge.
It's fascinating to see how Greek culture, even in its transformed Hellenistic form, continued to spread and influence the ancient world. But while all this was happening in the East, wasn't another power rising in the West? One that would eventually eclipse even Alexander's empire?
You're thinking of Rome, a city-state on the Italian peninsula that would transform itself into a vast empire encompassing much of the Mediterranean world. But that's the story for another deep dive.
Right, we've covered a lot of ground today, from Mesopotamia to ancient Greece. It's amazing to see how these civilizations laid the groundwork for so much of what we value today.
It really is. And it makes you wonder what people will say about our civilization thousands of years from now.
That's a great thought to leave our listeners with. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ancient history. Until next time.